The process of how to make a contact sheet using Adobe Photoshop. This on the screen is a contact sheet. It is just a whole bunch of thumbnail versions of your photos put onto a single page. So this is just a nice way to get a quick preview of a set of photos you took. This can be useful if you've taken photos for a client and you just want to show them a preview of the photos rather than having to send over a bunch of individual files. You can send a client a contact sheet just to give them an idea of the photos you took. Seems complicated. It's actually really easy because Photoshop does most of the work for us. We just have to get a couple things set up first so that Photoshop can create this for us. So to start out, we need a folder that has just the photos that we want on the contact sheet in it. My folder is already right here on my desktop. You will put your folder in your H drive on the computer, but beyond that difference in location, it'll be the same idea. So I have my first contact sheet folder, and then here are my 12 photos. If you already have more than 12 photos in this folder, since this assignment specifically calls for 12 photos, that is all we need. So you will need to pick your 12 best. You might not want to delete them because you may be able to use those photos in a later assignment. So what I like to do is just create a new folder within that folder and just drag my 12 best into there. But this whole process will be a lot easier if you just have a folder that has exactly how many photos we want on the contact sheet. I'm going to just delete this since I already have my 12 photos. So the next thing I want to do is I want to name each photo. So for some assignments, we'll have specific ways we want to name the photos. For this assignment, we're just going to name them with a super short description of what the photo is of. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's say I want to name this one. This one is a close-up of a fire hydrant. So I will just click on the title and then I click again and it pulls up this little box so that I can rename it. So I will name this one fire hydrant. I'm going to name this fire hydrant number 1 because I have a bunch of fire hydrant photos. So then this one I think it's another picture of a fire hydrant. So I'm going to just click and then click again. It's a slow 2-click. If you do a quick double click, it will open the photo. So you want to click, hesitate for a second, and then click again, and that is what highlights the name so that we can rename it. So I'll name it fire hydrant 2 and I can hit enter. Let's see what this photo's of. Okay, so this one was like an aerial landscape shot in the Uintas, so I'll name this one Uintas. Another way you can rename it is if you right click, then there is all these options and one of them is rename, and it brings you to that same spot. So whether you want to do a click, hesitate, click again, or a right click, either way works. So I'm going to go through and name all of these so that it isn't just image 5051 because that isn't super helpful. Having actual names will make the contact sheet more useful. So you will want to go through and rename every single photo. After you've done that, then you want to open up Photoshop. Once you have it open, we are going to click on File in the very, very, very top corner, and then almost all the way to the bottom, Automate. And then once that little extra window pulls up, Contact Sheet. So File, Automate, and then Contact Sheet. When I click on that, it pulls up this window. Couple things we want to set first is the document dimensions. So we want our width at 8, our height at 10, and our resolution at 300. Every contact sheet we make, we want it at that dimension. That's a pretty standard photo dimension. So we always want it at that. The thing we want to change though is our rows and columns. We are going to change these depending on how many photos. So for this assignment, we're going to do 12 photos. later assignments, we might have 30 photos, so we'll have to change our rows and columns. I'm going to cancel out of this and show you why we want to change that. So here is my contact sheet I made with 12 photos. I did 3 rows, 4 columns, or sorry, other way around, 3 columns, 4 rows. And my photos take up the entire screen really nicely. If I hadn't changed the rows and columns, this is what my contact sheet would look like. Thing that I dislike about this is there's all this blank space, and I have to look at these tiny, tiny little thumbnails. So if I don't have enough photos to take up the entire screen, I'm going to change the rows and columns so they do. No sense at looking at tiny little thumbnails when we have all of that extra space. So for this assignment, 12 photos, 3 and 4 will make the most sense. That will give me 12. I wouldn't want to do like 6 and 2 because then that would be really like skinny, narrow columns and it wouldn't look very good. So whatever multiple will get you closest to having your photos take up the entire screen. So now that I have 3 and 4 set, I need to tell Photoshop which photos I want it to put on my contact sheet. So up here in the top, I want to make sure that I have folder selected since I put all my photos in a folder. I'm going to click choose, and then I'm going to go to where that folder is. For me, it's on my desktop, and it's right here. For you guys, it will be in your H drive, and then you'll select on it, and it might not show you anything, and that is totally fine. It's just Photoshop looking for a folder rather than individual files. So if it looks like your folder is empty, but you know that the photo's already in there, don't panic. Just go ahead and hit open or OK, and then you will be good to go. Okay, so now I have that folder selected. I have my document dimensions correct. I have my rows and columns set for this specific amount of photos. So then I'll just hit OK. And then I get to sit back and Photoshop does all of the hard work for me. It'll kind of look like Photoshop is spazzing out. You'll see it's doing a whole bunch of stuff in this bottom corner, and it creates the entire document for me. So we'll just wait a second. There we go. So you'll notice that the photos I renamed, it includes that name under each photo. So that's why we want to rename the photos before we make the contact sheet. So since I missed a couple, I will need to go back and rename those photos in the folder and then remake the contact sheet. Since Photoshop does all the hard work for me, it's really not that big of a deal to have to remake the contact sheet, but that is what you'll have to do. Once I have this and everything's good, ready to go, then I just need to file, save as, and then I'm going to name it how we name everything in this class. So the period, underscore, and then your last name, your first name, underscore, and then the name of the assignment. So this one is first contact sheet. Okay, and then I want to change the format or the file type to JPEG. Again, the top one, JPEG, not 2000 or stereo, just regular old JPEG. And then I'm going to hit save. You'll pull up this little window. This little slider bar just changes the quality it saves. So I like to always have it all the way maxed out at the best quality possible. And I hit OK. And then it has saved that to my H drive. And then I can turn this assignment in on Canvas. So that is how to make a contact sheet using Photoshop. Photoshop does it all for you. You don't need to manually put in the photos. That would be way too much work.